One of the harder but more important things we talk about on this channel is safety, and acknowledging the fact that aviation and the pursuit of it inherently involves risks. One of those big risk areas is weather, and deciding what weather we as pilots decide to fly into. Now, weather is a really big topic. It gets really complex really fast, but there's at least a few core things that you need to know about it that can keep you safe, and today we're going to cover one of those big things. One of the big things about weather is just learning what not to fly into, what kinds of weather to avoid. And one of those things are cumulonimbus clouds. Now, cumulonimbus clouds, often referred to by pilots as CB, are the big clouds associated with thunderstorms, tornadoes, hail, the really big weather events. And cumulo just meaning it's accumulating cloud, and nimbus meaning that there's rain associated with it. So these cumulonimbus clouds, the CBs, are things you really don't want to fly into, and there's 6 reasons for that. The first reason is rain. Now, you can obviously fly through a certain level of rain, but at some point these cumulonimbus clouds can have torrential downpours associated with them. So much so that it can flood the induction systems of airplanes, it can overwhelm the pitot-static systems. At some point, flying through too much rain can really be destructive to the aircraft itself. So you can fly through some, but it's best not to fly through heavy precipitation. The second reason you don't want to fly into cumulonimbus clouds is because of the updrafts and downdrafts associated both in the cloud and also beneath the cloud. If the cloud has rain coming out of it, usually that's indicative of there being downdrafts within the cloud. And then underneath the cloud and on the surface, there can even be microbursts, which microbursts can have up to 2,000 feet per minute winds. And then on the ground, that can end up being wind gusts of up to 100 miles an hour. So these clouds move a lot of air around them and beneath them. It's a good reason to avoid them altogether. A third reason not to fly through cumulonimbus clouds are because of icing conditions. There's a ton of updrafts and downdrafts occurring within the cloud, and when water gets pushed up, it can usually get up to the freezing level and create ice. Now, airplanes that are certified into known icing conditions are somewhat okay in this regard, but associated with cumulonimbus clouds are often supercooled large droplets, or SLDs. And this type of icing really doesn't show up on radar or anything, and it's water that it's below the freezing level, but it's yet to crystallize or form into ice. So even airplanes that are certified into known icing conditions can gather a lot of ice very quickly from these supercooled droplets of water, and can be a really dangerous thing, even if you're certified into known icing. A fourth reason not to fly through cumulonimbus clouds is hail. Now, hail forms because of the updrafts and downdrafts associated with the cumulonimbus cloud, where it'll push the rain up to the freezing point, it'll crystallize into hail, fall back down, it might get thrown up again through an updraft, become bigger hail, and then fall, and eventually fall out of the cloud. So there's a lot of up and down motion forming this hail that not only you could fly through if you're flying through the cloud, but it will also sometimes spit out the top and the front end of the cumulonimbus cloud. You can kind of notice this if a cloud has an anvil shape. If it's kind of protruding out of the front of the cloud, it'll often spit out that hail. That's why sometimes on the ground it might hail before it actually rains. And hail is not only dangerous to fly through, it can be life-threatening. It can obviously damage the aircraft, but if the hail is large enough and you fly through enough of it, it can be a life-threatening situation. So you don't want to fly through cumulonimbus clouds for this reason, and you also really don't want to fly in front of them either. Another reason you don't want to fly through cumulonimbus clouds is lightning. Now, lightning doesn't really pose that much of a threat to aircraft, but it's definitely disorienting to the pilots in the cockpit with these huge flashes of bright light all of a sudden. Lightning can end up disabling or damaging communication antennas, different elements of the airplane, but the biggest thing is just disorientation of the pilots. It's really not something you want to fly through. The last reason you don't want to fly through cumulonimbus clouds is tornadoes. Now, obviously, you're not going to intentionally fly straight through a tornado, but you need to appreciate the fact that these supercells in the cumulonimbus clouds are certainly capable of creating tornadoes. And when they do, those storm clouds can reach up to 50,000 feet and beyond. And these types of storms, airliners don't even outclimb, and really the only thing to do is to avoid them at that point. So those are some reasons not to fly through a cumulonimbus cloud. Now, inevitably, you're going to see lots of these as you're flying, and you don't need to have a panic attack because they're building around you. You just need to have a really healthy respect for what they are and what they can become. A general rule of thumb is to stay 25 miles away from cumulonimbus clouds. This will give you a healthy amount of distance in case they're building or moving towards you, so you can figure out plan B, and that'll help keep you safe. So if you want to join the journey of becoming a more proficient and safe pilot, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. We're posting a couple videos a week and also writing articles several times a week over at airplaneacademy.com, and we look forward to you joining the journey alongside us.